Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Hopefully, you have had an amazing start to your week. This is the Unfiltered Call-In Show. Make sure you like, subscribe, click the notification button, and then, you can help us out a little bit. But what do we do on the show? We talk about Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship, things of that nature. Really, it's about answering your questions. If we can answer your questions, then we're sitting pretty, right? You are welcome to come live on the show, or you're welcome to drop your questions in the chat. Normally, the way we start the show off is by doing a little bit of on the topic of the week. And the topic this week is actually going to be unmotivated teams, right? Um, A lot of us deal with unmotivated teams. And the question is, what are the top reasons why teams are classically unmotivated? We're going to move a little bit beyond Dan Pink's words and see if we can go just a tad bit deeper and then take it from there. So that'll be our topic. And what we classically do is 5 minutes in this little intro part, and then we'll go through our topic of the day for about 15, maybe 20 minutes, somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes after, maybe even closer to 30 minutes after. We'll go ahead and open up the actual floor for your questions, right? And so we'll have at least a solid 30 minutes to go through questions. So you're welcome to join us live or join us any way that you choose to. Now, that being said, what is going on? Probably next week I got a CSPO. That's an online version of that. And then a week after that, I got CSM. I'm wrapping up another, it's like week 9 of another quarter in terms of this PhD thing. So that thing is hitting me in the face all the time, right? Talking about qualitative reasoning. First round of this, then I got to do another round next time, and then just preparing for a lot of things in life, with a lot of things changing for my life. So that stuff is coming. But yeah, just been getting hit hard with that stuff. So nothing major. And working with clients on things that need to be worked on. But other than that, everything I'm gonna say is kind of slow motion outside of the children. With the children, it's like one daughter moved this past weekend. I got another daughter moving this upcoming weekend, and they are moving from two different, they are in different states. One is in Texas, one is in Indiana, and I had to do some moves this past weekend, and I had to come back up so then I can go to Indiana so I can do some moving this upcoming weekend. And it all requires me to bring my little truck around. The F-150 always works itself out, right? So it's always helpful. And so that's pretty much how my weekends have been. At least this past weekend and my upcoming weekend is going to be more of that. So the adventures of being a dad with girls. Probably would be I probably would do less for the boys. The boys are older than the girls anyway. I probably do less for them. But when you got girls, it's like, what can you do? It's like I'm stuck. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. No. They cool. They cool. They work for me. They are. I'll keep them. I'll keep them. I'll keep them. Right. But other than that, it's just nothing but a bunch of goodness if I'm really, really sitting back and thinking to myself, um, about the good things that are going on, and it's just ultimately good, right? On that note, nothing else going on, but do me a favor, say hi, say hi in the chat so I can shout you out as usual. Love, tell me how's things going for you, right? Has this week started off pretty nice for you? We are almost to the end of July, about to go into the 8th month, so it's like Mm, mm, right? We done did a lot, right? So we are in that third quarter, right? Trying to make things happen. So, like I said, just say hi. And, during the show, I will say hi back to you in some kind of way, whether you are on LinkedIn or you actually sitting right here on YouTube, it doesn't matter. We'll talk from either place, right? That being said, Patrick, what's going on? Hopefully you're doing fine. I'm doing good, brother. Nothing really crazy happening over here. I'm just, man, let me tell you, Patrick, I'm gonna be 50 this year, and I'm just kind of celebrating it to some degree. You know, that's what I'm doing. So I'm happy about that, right? So it's like amazing for me. I'm like sitting here like gloating to myself, right? Every day is a celebration for me. What's going on, Rajiv? How you doing there, sir? We're good. I know you're good. Addie, how you doing? Hopefully everything's good for you. Um, I'm jumping over here. Johnson A, I see you. I can't throw you up on the screen there because it doesn't let me pull the actual YouTube LinkedIn over. I'm probably going to shift everybody over to YouTube, y'all. So just know that that's probably going to be one of the big changes is that I'm going to stop streaming on LinkedIn and just post whatever after on LinkedIn. But welcome as a Scrum Master change agent. I love Scrum Master slash change agents, obviously. Um, yeah, the 1K did happen. We didn't make it a big celebration. But we did mention it. And so it is a good thing. So yeah, turning 50, 1,000 subscribers, that's a plus. Maybe it will work toward 2,000. One of the things that I never really thought about this channel as trying to be something to build a big following. It was really a channel just to answer people's questions and it had some association with Bearded Eagle. That's how it initially started out. It's turned out to be a little bit more than that, and that's blessings for that, right? So I can't really complain, right? So blessings for that, right? Um, every milestone is worth celebrating. Yeah, Lizzie's doing good. Lizzie just turned 50, so she's doing good. So she's older than me. She's out in Orlando, actually at the Agile Alliance conference. So that's really amazing, right? So she's out there going doing good work. And we always do stuff, right? We always do stuff here and there. So that's nothing but goodness. I'm over here looking. Let's see. Let me double check one more time for my people on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. So, I went ahead and grabbed my iPad. I want to go ahead and jump into this topic, right? The topic of the day. And that really is about dealing with um, lack of motivation. So, what are those real top reasons that teams are unmotivated, right? Then here's the deal. I don't just want to talk about why teams are unmotivated. I would like to also make sure that we at least talk about one solution for whichever item. And I think I got five of them off the top of my head. Here's the first thing I want to do with you all right now. Okay. Dan Pink wrote a book called Drive. Um, it's a little bit older now. I don't know what year it came out, but the book is called Drive. It could be The Drive, but it's called, I think it's just Drive, right? Dan Pink, Daniel Pink, like the color pink, right? And, if you boil that book down to the basically what it is in just a sentence, you know, um, cognitive workers, what I'm going to say, knowledge workers, right? Are motivated once you take money off the table by purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Okay. Now let me peel that back for just a second because it's easy to say it that way. What Dan Pink did was to divide motivation into two distinct pieces. One of them is extrinsic motivation, while the other one is intrinsic motivation. Does that make sense? And what he really said is that for knowledge workers, kind of people like us, cognitive workers. Um, Extrinsic motivators don't really motivate knowledge workers. They offer a baseline, right? It is the intrinsic motivators that motivate knowledge workers, cognitive workers, right? And so when he says extrinsic money, right? That's not a motivator as long as we got a baseline and we smiling a little bit about what we have. But those intrinsic things like purpose, autonomy, and mastery are the things that motivate us. So really, when you think about that statement, it really is divided into two, right? Two. I gotta say two like this. I can't say two like this because then you can't see the two, right? But it really is divided into two, extrinsic and intrinsic. But let's put that to the side, okay? Let's put that to the side because we already know that that is like putting a stake in the sand, and I don't know anybody that can truly disagree with that. Okay, I don't know anybody that can because realistically, the statements that he make isn't something that he made up. He got that out the academic literature fundamentally, right? I think the articles that he cite is a little bit older at this point, but the idea is still the same. Those are intrinsic motivators, and here's the deal: it's probably a little bit more nuanced than that. But that's a topic for another day. Okay. What I want to really get at is I want to go beyond that and talk about some specific things that could map to those things to some degree. I'd imagine it will map to one or the other, or maybe several, right? The um the first one on my list, right? The first one on my list um probably ties probably ties very well to purpose, right? And it is really a lack of a clear vision, a lack of clear goals. Okay. Again, we're motivated by purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Purpose is key there, right? When you have a vision, you have some goals, you're providing people with a North Star. And by providing them with a North Star, you are doing things that actually helps them to connect and connect collectively to move in the same direction. So this is really, really important. Okay. And I want you to just step back and really think about that. One of the reasons why in Scrum we have product goals and sprint goals is to provide some level of a direction. So if you find goals are unclear, if you find that people are confused about the vision, if you see that there is the direction isn't right, something's not right with that direction, you probably see lower motivation, lower morale, right? And the thing about Agile is we always talk about building projects around motivated people, right? And so here's the deal: whoever's leading in Scrum, that's classically the product owner leading the direction of where we're going in reference to the product or the thing that we're building. I would work with that product owner to make sure that they have an idea of where we're going, the vision, the goals, and that everything is aligned. So we constantly can reaffirm that our objectives, that everything we do in Scrum is following those objectives, those goals, that actual vision. Does that make sense? And so my solution would be to work with the product owner on stuff like that, creating what I'm going to call alignment, right? So that being said, I'm going to ask you all a question here in the room. When you see teams that's not motivated, when you see a lack of goals, a lack of vision, is there anything else that you would suggest that you think that people could do? If you do think of something, do me a favor and drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat, right? I'm going to come back and re-mention some of these things just to make sure it's all clear for everybody. Okay. I'm going to move on to the second thing, right? The second thing I think is something that many of us have seen. And most of you all gonna be, yeah, 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 right. That is a thing, right? And it's called micromanagement. It's called micromanagement. Okay. Um, One of the things that we are supposed to do is empower people, give them all the stuff that they need, and then say, hey, you know what? You are smart. You can get this done. You know, you take lead on it. You make it happen, right? Micromanagement is like somebody always being all over you, right? Um, you know, I have someone really special to me who started getting micromanaged, and it was a whole problem. It was a whole problem, right? But cognitive worker, right? And so when you actually micromanage someone, you are undermining the basic principle of empowerment. You're also almost saying, like, you're dumb to some degree because they have that knowledge and they want to use that knowledge, right? And so, what it ultimately does is it has an impact on what I'm going to call autonomy. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting, and I may have mentioned this at some point. Autonomy is a precursor of motivation, intrinsic motivation, and it is a precursor for psychological safety. Okay, that's what the literature is telling me today. The latest literature. I'm talking about the literature of the past 5 years, right? The literature is telling me that autonomy is a precursor for both motivation and psychological safety, right? So now you're doing a simple thing of micromanaging. You see creativity start to get lost. You see motivation go down. That's because you're taking away the underpinnings of the foundation of autonomy away from them, right? And so when you think about micromanagement, and I'm going to ask you all in the room, what are some solutions that you believe could be tried in terms of micromanagement? And do me a favor, drop it in the chat, but make sure you put the number two in front of it. So I know that this is associated with the second principle, right? With the second solution. And we'll do the same thing for number three. But if you think of a solution or some solutions, and just make sure you associate a two with it. But here's what I think. Here's what I think, right? When it comes to micromanagement, what I would do is something really very simple. You have to start building trust on that team, trust in those people, trust in that they have the ability to get the job done. You have to foster an environment that will encourage the autonomy that is being stripped away. So, just rebuilding that foundation of autonomy is going to give them the support that they need to reach further. Understand, my statement to you is that they have to stand on the foundation of autonomy so they can reach further. That support will help them. Yeah, removing impediments is going to be helpful in that, but the idea is that you want to deal with the underpinnings that are removing that autonomy away. So very, very, very important. Okay. Very, very, very important. Let's talk about a third item, right? Number three, right? Number three, um, isn't anything complicated, right? Probably one of the biggest problems that I'm actually running into, um, probably over the past couple years, especially with the great migration that has happened, especially with it seeming like organizations are in this battle with Agile, whether they want to keep their Agilists in the building. I mean, not in the building, but whether they want to get rid of IT for Agilists or not get rid of them, getting rid of developers or not getting rid of them. The great migration due to the pandemic, people wanted their lives that are very different. One of the things that's really happened is that for the people that's remained behind, For the people that's remained loyal, um, they got a lot of work to do, man. They kind of burnt out. So it's like they've been overloaded with work. You know, as y'all know, I've been married twice. I got two ex-wives. The first ex-wife, where she works at, they just keep adding stuff. Like they get rid of stuff and she has new responsibilities. She definitely is doing three or four different jobs. Like for real. And that's not changing anytime soon for her. But I think everybody that she works with is doing three or four jobs, right? And these are the loyal people that's staying in the organization, right? That burnout is crazy. That burnout is crazy because you only have so much time. Now, and when I say overload and burnout, I'm really saying you're just pushing too much work on the people. You're pushing much work. People aren't nowhere near that 40-hour work week. A lot of people aren't near the 50-hour work week, right? They're above that in terms of how much time they got to spend connected. And then we are so connected to everything because of our devices that it just doesn't help us, right? So it's almost like you're always on. You're always on, right? And so a lot of people experiencing burnout. Now, here's the statement. What do you think are some things that people could try, especially if you're a scrum master, you're working with a team, you see this stuff is happening and it's coming. What do you think are some things that you can try to help with burnout, right? Whatever you answer, please put the number three in front of it, right? Because this is the third thing that we've talked about. So give me some suggestions. What do you think are possible solutions for that? Okay. Now, my solution is going to be really very simple. I'm going to say to you, you have to lean on that agile, agile principle that talks about sustainable development. But I'm just going to say work life balance, right? To bring it to the 2020s, right? Work life balance. And one of the ways that you can achieve work life balance is really to recognize that you have to prioritize the work that's coming into the pipe with an understanding that likely everything's not going to get done. And you have to understand the capacity of the people that's doing the work. You need really both those elements. You need both those elements, right? Because you got the work coming in the pipe and you only got so much capacity or throughput that you can get out the pipe, right? That you can get out the door. You have to understand both those key things, right? You have to do both of those things because normally you're going to just have too much work. Most successful companies always have too much work to do, right? And so there's always going to be this thing where there's always a lot of work. So we're not going to say it's going to be less work that's going to happen. When a company sells something, they sell something. They want to get it done, get it out to the customers. They get end dates and everything else. You're going to see these things happen. But the idea is that you want to make sure that you think about that work life balance or trying to help people with that burnout, right? All right, so number four, number four, number four. Here's the deal. You know, one thing that is missing is people don't know how to say thank you anymore. They just don't. They don't know how to say to people, man, that's a good job. They don't know how to give constructive feedback. Okay. So I would say that my fourth one is a lack of recognition and feedback, right? Um, Constructive feedback by itself is a motivator because when you provide somebody with some good feedback that they can actually utilize, right? You can't say to somebody, you got to better communicate. Like that's cool, but it doesn't help, right? People need examples of things that didn't go so well and maybe even some tips on things that can be done, but in a constructive way. You're not trying to tear people down, right? You're not trying to tear people down to the place where they don't want to talk to you, right? So I would say from people that I know who working inside of companies and slaving away getting things done, um, the ones that feel appreciated, the ones they're normally the ones that's the most inspired. They're normally the ones that's the most inspired. So I would say there's an absence of that for many, many people in the workplace today, right? So that's something you want to deal with in some kind of way, right? So again, I'll ask you once again, if you think of some solutions here. When you think about lack of recognition and feedback, what are some things that you think that people can actually do in terms of solutions, right? Make sure you mark that with number four. What I would encourage you to do is to just start to build norms associated with giving constructive feedback and recognition. The reason why I say start building norms is because I'm saying start to have behaviors, because all your culture is a set of norms and behaviors. That's all your cultures are. So if you start to have behaviors that start to turn into norms, that can spread and have an impact on the culture. And so I would be finding ways to celebrate small successes, right? I don't care how small the success, even if the success has nothing to do with what we're doing. I'm gonna find some ways to let people know, man, that was a good win right there. Yeah, yeah, I get it. Congratulations on that, right? In small ways, right? And then when you start to do that, you'll see other members of the team do it too, right? One of the things that I always do to kind of always remind myself to do this, is I make sure with my retrospectives I end on a positive note. I always do. I end on what I call shout outs. You know, shout outs. Some good and great. Some good happened. Shout the person out. Say what they did, right? Just give a shout out, right? And I always like that positive vibe, because that positive vibe tends to float into the next sprint, right? So I love it. I absolutely love it. Just one of those things, man. Just one of those things. Just, hey, great job. So I think that's something that anybody can do. Anybody can do that. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that, right? Nothing whatsoever. Okay. Number five. Number five. Um, is I'm gonna say inadequate tooling is probably another thing that I see. Inadequate tooling, the wrong people, the wrong resources. I'm trying to separate human capital from other resources. The things that people need to get the job done, right? Those things could be outdated, but they could also be overbearing. You know how you have a tool, and then you have another tool, and you do the same thing in two different tools. That's frustrating for people, right? The tool doesn't give you the data that you need to get out of it. That's frustrating for people, right? Because what ends up happening is people do workarounds outside of the tool that ends up being more work for everybody that's involved, right? And so you have to make sure. Well, before I say that, in the chat, right? When you think about inadequate tools, inadequate resources, I'm not talking about people and their skills, right? Um, what are some things you think could be done to help with that? What are some things do you think could be done to help with that? You know, to me, this is a super easy one. It's super easy because for me, it's just make sure the team got what they need, the right tools, the right resources to get their job done as effective as possible, right? You know, I had a company I was working with, and I could not. It took me days to onboard. It's not effective for me. It's not effective because I'm a good enough resource where I'm ready to go right now. Do you understand where I'm coming from? No, I need to go right now. Every hour is important to me, and I don't want to spend an hour onboarding, right? I don't want to spend an hour, let alone days. You understand? So realistically, do that for them, right? And again, make sure you throw some things in the chat. Put the number five associated with that, right? I have one final one, right? I was only gonna do five, but this one final one I think is important, and this one is just in your head, right? But I think it's a really big one, right? And I've suffered, I've had this problem time and time again myself, right? And it's the fear of failure. That would be bonus. So don't count that as number six. That's bonus. Fear of failure, right? Fear of failure happens probably when you have a culture that does a bunch of finger pointing. There's a lot of blame that's in that culture, a lot of fear exists in that culture. But the way I see it happening, without blame and without innate fear, I just see finger pointing. That's exactly what I see finger pointing, right? And finger pointing from higher ups and bottom, just all lateral, all just across. It's just a lot of finger pointing, and the finger pointing don't help anybody. It don't help anybody. It takes away people desires to take risk. Um, it puts us in a position where when we're definitely not going to innovate. Yeah, fear is not going to allow. Fear is not going to put me in a position where I have an idea about something, a way that I can solve this problem that's a little different that might bring greater results. I'm probably not going to take that risk. Just the fear of failing, fear of being wrong, right? Again, bonus one. If you have anything that you think can be done for this bonus one, then do me a favor, drop that in the chat, right? Drop that in the chat. Just say bonus, right? Don't say number six. You can say number six. I'm just messing with you. All right. So that being said, obviously for this, it's creating a more safe and trusting environment, right? Um, that right there would be helpful, right? Right now, I'm going through a story points thing being done on the individual team member level. And that right there is causing all kinds of issues that point toward people fearing fail, where people won't even help other people because they have a fear of failing to meet their story point requirement. And that right there is not something you want to see. So you got to change that. You got to change that environment. You got to change that culture, right? Um, you want to look at failure as an opportunity to learn. You want to look at failure that way, right? Um, and I was listening to YouTube when I'm always trying to learn. So I was listening to YouTube as I was, taking a shower. And man, the Jedi, you know, Star Wars, the Jedi type thing, right? One of their mantras is really about failure as being an opportunity to learn or gain knowledge, right? So there's no real failure. It's just really more knowledge that you're gaining, right? And if you look at life that way, then your life changes a whole lot, right? I look at things as there being a lot of opportunities. I really have, right? Um, Even if it's a failure, I might have to go take a nap. Like I may have to go take a nap after a failure, but for me, after I take that nap, it turns into I've learned something, and now let me go crush it in a different way. So that's always what you'll see in terms of me. Uh, but that's the five plus one, plus the bonus, right? And let me repeat these things for you because I think that they were absolutely amazing. And then I'm gonna run through some of the comments, right? So, I'm gonna start off, I'm gonna go backwards with the bonus, right? The bonus for me is a fear of failure. I gave you the solution to that, building that environment. Some things that were said here, Lorraine. Share times you failed. Let the team know that it's okay to fail fast, right? Encourage experiments. That's spot on. Encouraging experiments is one of the best things that you can actually do. It's hard to beat that, right? It really, really is. Patrick says here, right? Ensure it's an environment where failure is in us all, as well as success is, right? We fail or succeed together. I agree with that wholeheartedly, right? There's no, yeah, I agree with, I can't even add to that, Patrick. I can't even add to it, man. Yeah, that's amazing, right? Can't even add to it, right? I'm gonna go ahead and move backwards, right? I said inadequate tools, right? Resources, right? For me, get people what they need to do their jobs in the most effective way that they can. So they have the least amount of rub, the least amount of resistance. You are trying to support them being able to foster their ability to be able to deliver or to do the job well, right? And get them the things that they need to be able to do it well, right? Clear the path for them. So it makes their job easier, is what you want to do. So that would be amazing if you did that. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, well, I don't have any comments on that one and number five one. So I'll come back to number four. Uh, Number four was the lack of recognition and feedback. Okay, that was number four. And I see here P. Bale say it's just say thank you, right? Say thanks with pay or time off. Career path, right? Those are definitely good motivators, right? You want that stuff to happen. Well, we have a kudos section, right, on their mural board, right? Kudos section sounds very nice. I love it. I absolutely love it. We have a round of appreciations and retros and reviews. I always do a round of appreciations. I do them in reviews as well. So Lorraine, we're thinking alike here. I think we may be twins. We may be twins, Lorraine. You know what? My family's last name is Chambliss, but then they just decided to change it to Chambers. They just did it. They like we're Chamberlains, and then all of a sudden, and this is after slavery, right? They're Chamberlains coming out of slavery. They're Chambliss coming out of slavery, and then all of a sudden, my grandmother's generation said, "No, nah, we're just Chambers." So yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying we could be related. Oh man, that's cool. All right, so that being said, that's crazy. I love it. I love it a lot. Y'all know I'm a genealogist by trade. You know what? I don't even want to make money off of it because the day I make money off of it, it would suck for me. Anyway, yeah, just like how your hobbies, you just like to do them because you like to do them. Number three was overload, the burnout thing. So be careful about that. Just that work-life balance is really important. I didn't see any comments on this one. Oh yeah. Eugenia, if work past your 40 hours, you're shortchanging yourself. Yeah, you are at that point, right? Um, and then coming back, number two was about micromanagement. Don't do that micromanagement stuff. I mean, autonomy is key, man. I hate to say it. I mean, I don't hate to say it, but autonomy is just key. If you don't have autonomy, man, let me just say it to you once again. I'm gonna repeat this to you because this is amazing that I learned this. Like this PhD is doing wonders for me. Like I could not tell you. Like literally, I'm reading so much stuff, I'm learning so much stuff, and it all just makes sense to me, right? Autonomy is a precursor for psychological safety and motivation. Come on. That's a super nugget by itself, y'all. Right? That's a super nugget. So anyway, micromanaging ruins that. So stop it. Just stop it. Okay. And then our last one was about a lack of clear vision, lack of goals, that thing. And that thing was about alignment. Patrick said, hey, convene the team and have a conversation to make sure alignment is still good. Address any issues. And have private conversation to address individual issues. Absolutely. Let's see. We passed the micromanagement one, but job security, CTOs micromanage for selfish reasons. Um, we have suggesting doing exercise to find intrinsic motivators. Yeah. That was from Lorraine. Burnout leads to low motivation. Yeah. Let's see. All right, so I think we covered them all. I probably couldn't cover them all in the right thing because I didn't see the numbers associated with it, like we said. But let's go back and make this statement. Realistically, if your team is unmotivated, there's likely a reason for it. And if your team is being less productive, is not being as effective, you should be able to see the signs of a team that's not motivated, or even an individual that's not motivated. If you are in a position to help them, you should. If you're in a position to make their world just a little bit brighter, their day a little bit lighter, you probably could find a way to do that. And if you can find a way to do that just for the human experience, you understand the statement? Just for the human experience, it's worth it. You understand where I'm coming from? It's not about people. We're working with people. Come on now. We're working with people. And all you have to do is just be good people. Be good peeps, man. Just be good peeps to peeps. And if you can be good peeps to peeps, man, we can make this world a better place. One nice thank you at a time, one nice kudo at a time, right? One nice, hey, you know what? Let me lift that weight with you a little bit, just a little bit, right? Let me help you. Come on now, nah, get up off your knees. We don't do that, okay? We don't do that, right? Let's go here together and let's make it happen. If you can find a way to make somebody's life or world better, trust me, they'll give it back into the world tenfold. They will give it back into the world tenfold. So for me, I'm always looking to make people's days a little bit brighter and their loads a little bit lighter. That's always what I'm trying to do. And if you live by that mantra, we'll have a much better workplace and we'll probably have a much better world. So on that note, y'all, I think that's it for this topic. I went way overboard. Like, this is ridiculous. Why did y'all stop me, man? I wasn't supposed to go and talk about that topic for that long. Anyway, because I'm supposed to get time for people to ask questions. So right now, we're gonna shut down that topic because it went way longer than expected, right? But yeah, it's a good topic, man. I could have just went down one of those paths. We're gonna have to improve the show, y'all. We can't be taking that long to do topics like that, seriously. But it's all good. It's all good. Um, so let's talk. Here's the deal. We're at that part of the show where we have to go ahead and answer questions, right? And one of the things I want to say is I love this topic and thank you all for showing up, right? It's an amazing thing for me to see you all here, right? But I will remind you to make sure that you like, subscribe, right? If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like. Make sure you click the notification button so you're notified when we put out videos. I'm going to make sure that I do more videos after I get through the end of September. Like, no, think November. I'm going to start ramping things up going into next year. So that being said, the other thing I should mention is the bankable event. Again, about 2 weeks out, I'm going to start really advertising it, right? Because I don't, there's been a lot of people that have registered, but I'll start advertising a little bit while longer. Miss White, you sent me a message. I will answer your message in the morning. I've just been super busy today, so you'll be good to go. And I messed up the support email, so I need to update the support email and everything else. So I messed that up, so that's on me. I got Rajiv that's going to support me on that. Um, let's see, what else can I talk about here? Questions. It's time for me to answer questions. So if you have any questions, we do this one of two ways. You're welcome to join the show. And to join the show, all you really need to do is utilize the link. There's a link I'm going to drop into the chat, and you are welcome to utilize that link to join the show. Right now, when I say join the show, you're joining the show live. So that means you can't be trying to listen to the show and talk to me at the same time. People who join the show, they obviously get preference over people who don't. Otherwise, what I would love for you to do, if you have any kind of questions, drop them in the chat. Just drop them in the chat. I'll look in the chat and then I'll answer them accordingly. Okay. So, and then I can make sure that you're taken care of. Does that make sense? So, drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to say hi to people and we'll keep going from there. Let's see. So, as I look here, so welcome Lorraine, welcome P. Bell. Thank you. Miss White. Let's see. Yeah, that's everybody. That's everybody that's at least throwing a comment out there. If you haven't thrown a comment out there and said hello, I wouldn't know that you exist. Let's see. Let me see if there's anything. Is my family Jamaicans? No, not Jamaicans, not at all. They were slaves in Virginia. So they were slaves in Virginia and slaves in Virginia a long time, like a long time. Like they weren't like new slaves in Virginia. They were like old slaves in Virginia, right? I can at least go back two, three, mm, close to four generations of slaves, like for real. People that was, take somebody who was born as a slave. I can go back two, three, maybe four generations. I'm getting close to four generations on some of my lines, but no, they're not Jamaicans at all. They are straight U.S. bound. Now that's not saying we don't have no relationship, but I'm just saying. But yeah, they chamberless and returned to chambers. And if you go look at the slave owners, because I found the slave owners too, right? The slave owners' last names were like those kind of names: Chambers, Walker, Northington. So they obviously had some kind of association. Um, let's see, what else is here? What else is here? Most of the stuff that was here is answers to the stuff that we was talking about. I'm just double checking. But any questions, please drop them in the chat. Please drop them in the chat. Let's see. I don't see any questions from my fancy folks over on LinkedIn either. So I just went over there to double check. I'm gonna tell you something, Lorraine. I love this topic. I absolutely loved this topic for real, for real. I just really did. I was looking forward to this one, right? Next week, though, next week, we're gonna talk about a different topic. This was suggested by Grace. And the topic that we're going to talk about, you might see this pop up, is that topic right there. Scrum Master needs technical skills. Y'all know that that is a debate that we have had for years at this point. We're going to kill this debate next week. So our topic next week is going to be Scrum Master needs technical skills. We need to have a conversation about that one for real, for real. Like seriously. So I'm like looking forward to that one too, right? Just looking forward to it because it just all every time I have, especially people that's new to Scrum, right? I do CSM classes, right? So I'm a certified Scrum trainer, so I do CSM classes. And man, I'm telling you, it's always brand new people that's new to Scrum, okay? And so the first thing they say is, I've been looking for jobs, and they say that I need to know whatever technical language, whatever type of, um, containerization or something like that. It's just like, no, we don't get into it. But the idea is that a lot of people think that Scrum Master should be technical, or have the skills that the developers have. I call them technical skills because a lot of Scrum Masters are working in IT regardless of industry. So it just makes it easy to talk about it that way. Scrum is agnostic of the type of work that you're doing. I've utilized Scrum to remodel my house. I utilize Scrum for my workout routine. I'm actually starting a new sprint next week. So I'm just kind of, and I'm thinking about that too. I've been in the gym like for real. Like I'm gonna be fit at 50. I'm gonna be fit at 50. Like for real. I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna raise my shirt and I'm gonna say, "Look at the six pack." No, I'm lying. If I came in here and raised my shirt and said, "Look at the six pack," I think I went and had surgery. I'm gonna have some kind of surgery. I went down to the Dominican Republic or something like that, and I'd had them make me some pack abs, right? Maybe I'm not gonna get if I'm gonna go get surgery, I'm gonna get 8 abs. I'm not gonna get six. I'm getting eight. I'm getting eight, not six. If I'm gonna have to pay for it, I'm getting additional. Like for real. Why not if you can pay for it? Why not? Anyway, I'm not into all that kind of stuff. I'm just not into it. I'm not into it. But if you need to do that, that is your prerogative. That is your life. You do what you should do to make yourself happy. If that's what you're doing to make yourself happy, I'm concerned. Yeah, I was real concerned. I saw the young lady die that was on Wild and Out, and with the DC Young Fly, right? I don't remember her name, but I know DC Young Fly and his girlfriend and wife. She left behind three kids, man, 3 kids. Yeah, that's I feel real sorry for those. I I feel a way for the children, right? I feel a way for him too, because that's a tough thing to deal with, right? I feel a way for the family, right? And people don't like to talk about those kind of things, right? Um, but I feel a way for them. I do feel some kind of way. If I knew them, I'd find a way to help them in some kind of way, right? Um, Man, any suggestions to motivate teams during layoffs? That's crazy. It's really hard to motivate teams during layoffs. I'm gonna ask you all because I've been through situations where there's been layoffs, right? What do you all do when you know that the organization has layoffs coming and anybody in the building can get it? What do you do at that point? What do you do? I'm asking you all in the room. I've dealt with this situation on more than one occasion. What do you do? I'm gonna tell you what I do. I actually try to, with my teams, long before, as soon as I know teams, I'm working to position people to be successful, whether they're at that company or not at that company. So for me, I always have a long-term strategy of positioning people to be successful. And I'm always having conversations with team members about their stability, right? And so for me, I try my best to begin those possibilities of conversations long before because I get fired all the time. And since I get fired all the time, there's a certain level of stability that you have to have. And so one of the first things I do with teams that I'm working with people that I'm working closely with, is I really try to make sure that they secure themselves in some kind of way. It's really hard to take risk when you haven't secured yourself personally and your family. When you haven't secured yourself, you're in a position now where you got to do whatever somebody tells you because otherwise you have a fear of losing your job. And I want people to be in a position where they don't fear losing their job, where they don't fear that. Okay. Now, the thing that if it just kind of starts to happen. So I'm going to give you a situation that was impossible for me. I was at an organization. We was doing an amazing job, having a great job doing a transformation. They got bought by another company. The company started bringing in resources from overseas to replace people, and people's pensions and their 20 years of service was persona non grata. It was no go anymore, right? For that stuff, right? Psychological safety was removed. There was nothing I could do. Everything that we did prior fell apart. All I could do at that point was offer up things to people that would help secure their future. And it would be things like good resume services. I've worked with you. Here's my contact information. I can write a letter for you. It's been things like that that help them out in that situation. And I had some people that utilize my name to help them move on to their next opportunity. So the thing is that when they are motivated and we don't know, I try to go business as usual. I know that this is happening, but go business as usual. But I need you all to secure yourselves. I need you all to secure that foundation. So if this does happen, you're secure and your family is secure. So I start digging into the person more. And I can't help it. That's just who I am. I start digging into the person more. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm working with you, I've already been digging into you. I've already been pouring into you about the fact, or at least trying to say to you, that most companies are going to protect the company over you. So you need to be in a position where you can move as you freely want to. But I do that from jump. I do that walking in a door. So for me, most people that I worked with were positioning themselves either for the next opportunity internally, the next opportunity externally, both, right? But it becomes, I think what Patrick started saying here, you dust off your resume, you cuss the organization under, under your breath, and wait for whatever. Yeah, you think you're stuck at that point, right? And what I would do in that situation, if I had not prepared anybody as best I can, I would talk to them about, really say, take some time. Like I would literally do this. Look, we're going to take 10% of our sprint, 10% of the sprint. Whatever time we was taking away then, we're going to take 10 more additional percent of our sprint. And you're going to take that time and do things to make sure you're good. You don't commit to even 10% less than what we did before. And you're going to do things to make sure you're good. We're not going to put this on the books in any kind of way. We're going to make sure you take some time to do something that's going to be good for you. And whatever it is, resume, the job hunt, whatever it is, I try to make sure that they end up having some time to be able to do what they need to do for themselves. And it is a split it, right? I do my best to get management support on that and say, in order to help people feel better, da 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 da. If I know management is not going to be supportive, then it's a different thing. But probably the biggest thing that I do is acknowledge the truth on it. That's probably the biggest thing, because some people love their job, man, and you just can't. You just, when the layoffs are coming, it's a different feel in the organization. It's really a different feel in the organization, and so I think you do your best, but in my position, I try to help people be prepared for whatever's going to come, and the best way to be prepared is to be prepared to not need them. So that's how I always couch it. That's how I always phrase it, right? Um, let's see. Patrick says, having experienced it, I've always encouraged people to change their skills through taking advantage of educational opportunities. Yeah. And what I try to do, Patrick, is I try to get people to take care of those educational opportunities immediately once I start meeting them. Like it's a like, look, I need you to take care of yourself in this, right? I need you to make sure that you grow in this. What is your personal goal? What is the thing you're trying to get out of this thing? 2 years from now, what do you plan to be? I try to get people to start working on themselves immediately, but that's just the way that I always start. So for me, I'm always, it's like, I want you to look at me like I'm your favorite uncle. You feel me? I really want you to look at me like I'm your favorite, like I'm your absolute favorite uncle, right? And I'm gonna give you some of the game. I'm gonna give you some of the game. But if you don't want to take it, then you just didn't do what your uncle said, and it's just a problem there. Um, but yeah, it's a tough deal, man. It's a tough deal, especially for people who they've been so dedicated to the company. Like they've been so dedicated to the company, like they raised their kids through the company. All their kids only know for them being at that company. That's a tough deal. But a lot of times the writing is on the wall, man. The writing is on the wall in a lot of companies. If I was working at a retail company that had brick and mortar and Amazon came out, I would have been looking at that. You understand? I would have been looking at that. A lot of people don't understand what's currently happening in the marketplace, so then they get surprised when things don't go right. It's very few companies that fall apart like Exxon. Like it's very few companies that completely fall apart like that. Like Goldstein or whatever, the Bernstein, whatever those things that fell apart. I mean, there's very few companies that fall apart within weeks, right? Like that one bank that fell apart. I mean, it's very few companies that fall apart in weeks. Normally, it's a over the years type thing, and the writing is normally on the wall. It really, really is. Um, so yeah, thank you. I'm hope those examples are helpful. But that was a good question. That was definitely a good question. Hey y'all, I spent a lot of time today on the topic. Um, I'm sorry, not sorry at all, man. I ain't sorry. What I'm be sorry about? Y'all crazy if you think I was sorry. No way. This is what I'm here to do. Talk about topics, right? Y'all didn't have any questions anyway, so I didn't have to worry about it. Anyway, that being said, hey, it's been amazing, y'all. I really appreciate y'all for real. You think I'm joking? I even pulled out some of my old bearded eagle swag. See that? See that blue swag right there? This is them old school kind of bearded eagle shirts. Yeah, I had to pull out my real rugby shirts out. I'm just saying that's what I had to do because I felt special. I felt like it was a special day for us all. Anyway, it's like I'm over here trying to entice you. I'm not trying to entice you. Man, this is a blessing, man. I absolutely love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Patrick. Always appreciate you, man. Again, hangout spot. We're gonna make this work. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna keep it going. Look, y'all. Make sure you have the most amazing week. Like literally, make it the best week that you've ever had. Right. And if it's a bad week, just make sure you come back here. Come on back here next week, lick those wounds off, and we're gonna get back at it because we out here to change the world. We're out here to change the way people work. We're out here to change our lives. We're out here to change the world. I want you all to get time and freedom. Like literally, if there was a dream that I have for everybody that's here, I'd love for you to have more time, more freedom. Right? I'm trying to even get more time and freedom. Like I got a lot of time and freedom. I have a lot, but I'm trying to get way more. Right? And so I want to see you all get time and freedom. But on that note, look, my name is Devon Morris. And I really care about y'all. I really, really do. Anyway, look, enjoy your week. I'll see you next week. You know what the topic is. We're going to be talking about those Scrum Masters, technical skills, those kind of things. You'll start seeing more about the bankable event coming. And I'll see y'all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, y'all. Peace. Thank you. Bye bye.